We now know the name of the person killed after a wreck over the weekend. Authorities identified the victim as Richard Green. Green was hit by a vehicle yesterday on Memorial Parkway and Cook Avenue. Police say the driver left the scene but later returned while they were still present. Green was taken to the hospital where he later died. No charges will be filed against the driver.